Hey guys, welcome back to the Ice Project. This was kind of an impromptu podcast with a good friend of mine, Joey Daymond, comedian. I thought we were just going to come in and chop it up, and I thought he was just going to be making me laugh the whole time, but it gets like a little bit deeper, and we go for about an hour and a half and talk about a bunch of different things, and he talks about the struggles of being brown. He's also been homeless, and now he's thriving. So hope you guys really enjoy this episode. Let's get back into it. Welcome to the Ice Project.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Ice Project. If you can do me a favor, please like, please comment, please subscribe. I got one of my guys in here. As a kid from Aotearoa, we're not usually in the place to sort of dap our boys up or give them flowers. So before we start this podcast, I just want to say congratulations on all your success and all the great things you're doing. Super proud of you, my guy.
Bro, it means a lot.
I appreciate that.
It means a lot, bro. Honestly, thank you.
Yeah.
That is a thing we're bad at, is giving each other love.
Oh, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because there's only the way I see New Zealand is we're so small. Like if anyone goes out and makes it in anything, like it could be Lance being dancing, it could be Dan Carter taking on the world in Union. Man, it just feels like if someone else makes it, I feel like we all make it. But it ain't like that, but I wish it was.
We have something I always talk about is I'll say it's inherently a Kiwi thing, but I'd say brown people suffer from it as well. I think we suffer from a collective low self-esteem. Think of Kiwis. If you're a mad singer in New Zealand, right? Everyone will be like, oh yeah, you'd be mean on NZ Idol.
Yeah.
Talk shit like that. As soon as you crack it in America, as soon as it's validated by somebody else that isn't New Zealand, then you're like, oh fuck, nah, they're mean. And they could be singing the exact same notes, just as good. Songs haven't gotten any better, but the people validating it have completely changed your perspective on it, because my view of New Zealand has always been, if it's accessible to us, we think it's easy, or we think it doesn't mean anything. Because we don't value our own views on things. We don't value ourselves, our own cultural. I always talk about cultural capital. We don't value our own one unless it's valued by someone else. So I reckon that's one of the big things back home that a lot of people struggle with. And I think a lot of people hear this and be like, fuck up, cunt. But because I'm from New Zealand,
Yeah, yeah. And you're a comedian. You can kind of say what you want right now, can't you? It's a good time to be a comedian. I look at all the big comedians around the world. They're some of the most influential people in the world because they can talk about topics that not a lot of us can talk about.
You know what the funny thing is, bro? Is back in the day, comedians used to be entertainment, and what they used to say used to be it used to be so outlandish that it was unbelievable. Whereas in this day and age where no one can talk, all comedians have to do is speak the truth.
Truth, yeah.
And it's that same outlandishness.
And it's all things that we agree with, but we just sort of shut up, sit there in the crowd and go, he's got a good point. He's got a good point.
Totally. But yeah, it's like a funny position to sort of be in. And honestly, I myself, I don't really even consider myself inherently a comedian. I never introduced myself as one. If you ask me what my...
It's in your bio though, isn't it, on Insta?
Oh yeah. I think small cock is also in my bio, but clearly my bio is full of lies. So it's medium. But yeah, I don't know. It's it's not something that I identify as.
Your ego is not attached to purely just being a comedian.
Nah.
Do you find where people know that you're a comedian now, it's can you tell me a joke straight away? Do they expect you to be funny? Because when I think of the comedians I like they are funny, but I think the best ones that I like are ones that can storytell and articulate and educate in the same sort of thing. So I look at a Dave Chappelle, those types of guys.
Same.
Yeah. So how do you? And I've noticed. We've only hung out a couple times, but you're naturally quite inquisitive. We were talking about you when you left one time. You're just you pay attention to the smallest stuff, and it's observational humor. Is that where the beauty lies, in just the simplicity of in comedy?
Appreciate it, bro. I think so ultimately, humor as a function, it only works if people understand the premise. There's this real good talk that Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, Ricky Gervais do, and it's on YouTube. And Chris Rock raises a good point. He's the first rule is the audience has to understand the premise.
Yeah.
If you think about that, if they have to understand the premise, it means they have to understand something you're talking about. Now, you can talk from a perspective of something really niche, and that could be funny to you.
Yep.
And that's great. No one's going to fucking get that. But if you're like really focusing on things that you know are probably going to be a lot more relatable, it doesn't matter whether it's funny or not, you're more likely to get a reaction out of them. You know, and that could be laugh, that could be a connection. You're more likely to get something from them than if you pick something else. So like, for example, I'll give you two examples. I could pick a funny situation, say like going to get fucked off your face in Amsterdam. If you think objectively, that sounds like a funny situation, but it's unrelatable. So it's like, could be 50-50 who finds that funny.
Okay, I've got ya.
Or I could pick something like, for example, today, it's fucking hard to find a car park anywhere in Sydney. Holy fuck. And I'm not even driving that shit.
Yeah.
See, already that's way funnier.
Yeah.
But then if you look at it objectively, it's like one sounds funnier, one is funnier. So
So does the beauty almost lie in the simplicity of it?
It lies in the simplicity, it lies in being relatable, and it lies in being self-aware. So like with me, I'm incredibly self-aware of like my flaws, what I'm not great at. I'm self-aware of like every part of myself that I don't like about myself and that I do like about myself. And then because I'm happy to present that, then ultimately like I think I can always be relatable because I'm transparent with both sides.
Have you heard of the 8 Mile effect from as a sort of a Gary?
Someone talked about I think Kempy mentioned that yesterday. Yeah,
did he?
Because he said that he does the same thing.
Yeah, so you take the piss out of your own self first. So like an Eminem when he gives the mic over to Papa Doc, like what else can they say about you? And saying that you take the piss out of all your own insecurities from an early age, was that just to cover things up?
Yeah, I mean for sure. Like that's kind of where it always starts. But then now it's like, so bro, like my comedy's changed heaps over this last like 12 months, right? So when I first started, it was very much like trying to find things to laugh at, almost because that's easier to address than like your own life.
Yeah.
But what I'm leaning into now is more talking about my own life. So like on that same example, back in the day, I used to joke around about, okay, this is embarrassing, but I'll tell you what I used to joke around about back in the day. I used to joke around about like being scucks.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
I was trying to take you serious.
What was funny?
Because you're not scucks.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
So you know
that's such a Kiwi word.
Yeah. Scucks and I'm carrying that to the end.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my humor, and because that is like, you know, it's a genuine part of my experience, being scucks. But then like that's not so much that it's like me being vulnerable or me exposing anything like truly about myself that maybe I'm not really open to sharing. But then now like,
have you opened up about everything now?
I'm starting to now.
Yeah.
And
you feel lighter?
Totally, bro. And it's great. So like I'll say like one of my jokes that I won't like tell it here because it's like weird, but one joke that seems to be connecting is I talk about how hard it is to talk to my dad about anything emotional.
I'm like that too,
bro. Like you've told me, like you've mentioned heaps what your old man was like. Like tell me what that whole situation you talking to your old man is like.
My thing now, like I'm pretty like like I get angry, but like I'm pretty unemotional. I can open up, but I'll never like really cry or anything like that. And the reason why is because probably used all my tears up as a kid. But my dad used to always go like, if you're gonna cry, I'll give you something to cry about. So like basically you just say you're an islander dad is just gonna give you a hiding if you keep crying.
Isn't that the classic?
Yeah.
You're gonna cry, I'll give you something to cry about. It's like, bruv, I've already got something to cry about. Why are you
Yeah.
You're almost contradicting yourself.
And then like I rolled into football as well, where you just build up these psychological walls around you and you're getting judged from everyone. Fuck, when you leave there, man, you just like this half numb. Fuck.
Bro, totally.
Yeah.
And you know, and what you're saying is that's extremely relatable, I would say, for more young men than not. And so for me, that was something that I really struggled to come to terms with. You know, take away all the comedy and like doing that on stage. That's something I struggle to come to terms with personally.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like kind of going into this new phase of my life, not only is it something I'm really open to talking about, I now have the confidence to take it to the stage, because that's a whole nother level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because you're not only chasing, you know, I guess like people like their acceptance through like laughing. But when you're doing comedy, people take it for who you are. You're chasing acceptance of yourself, and you're chasing it in like a room full of like 100, 200 fucking people. So you know, like straight away if they're not accepting you. So that's kind of where I'm at.
What's harder? One time I saw Jay-Z. He caught a subway and he performed doing Picasso, but there was only like 20 people in there, and he was more nervous doing that. And I just seen you last week do a sit down comedy, and it was so intimate. It would have been like the size of this room and people just sitting down. Is that harder or selling out? Because I know you've sold out some arenas back home, which is exciting. Which one's harder?
Funny, like I think I don't know, it's different. Like I think it would be harder to do the kind of comedy that I'm trying to do in that smaller room. Because like people almost feel kind of obligated to
laugh.
Whereas I feel like in front of an audience, you're more likely to capture. Bigger audiences are actually really like a lot easier because you're gonna catch someone, and then usually the crowd is like, they call it like a wave.
Yep.
Once one person laughs, like usually the whole audience kind of follows suit, and it's like this collectivism thing that's real buzzy that you experience as a comedian. So that's why the bigger audiences are a lot easier. So
I was like say football, for example, it's easier to play in front of 20, 30, 40,000 than it is 400 or your mum and dad, because like the vibe, like you said, the energy's there.
Yeah.
So like your game has to go up and you want to perform, and like comedy's just a form of performance, isn't it?
Yeah. Now when I played, really high level rugby, just Wellington schools, first 15.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like an elite level.
Who'd you play with? Did you play with anyone that kicked on?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I played Scott's first 15.
Yep.
Which is like an elite, school program. I would like probably compare it to like say a Sierra Canyon.
Yeah. How old are you?
Hold on. Nah, 27. How old are you? 30.
34.
Holy cunt.
Yeah. Oh, so you're pretty young.
34.
Yeah.
You act a lot younger.
Yeah.
Immature piece of shit. Nah. Yeah, so I'm 27, so I finished like 2013. Guys that I played with, who did I play? I don't know. Do you know many like union players?
Oh, probably more so just the main ones, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like who's the biggest name that come out of your area around your age?
Biggest, bro. Artie was a fucking superstar.
Was he from day dot all the way up?
From day dot, like, because he went to. So I went to Scott's, and that's in an area called like Strathmore, Miramar, and then just down the road is an area called Rongotai, and Artie went to Rongotai College, but then and when I say down the road, like a 10-minute walk, if that, like 5-minute walk, and our schools were separated just by this tunnel that goes under kind of this like main motorway a little bit. So our schools were really close to each other. We'd always have fights at the train station. And fuck, you already know what I was like.
Run away.
Nah, getting rides from mum. So I was at Scott's, the Salviers were at Rongotai, and then another 5 minutes down the road, Lance Savali and St. Pat's Town, that's all those boys. I'm trying to think like what ABs and shit they had. Matty Proctor went there.
Yep.
But bro, Artie, I remember 2011, Artie was year 13.
Sorry, 2013, yeah.
No, 2011, Artie was year 13, yeah, bro. Superstar.
Yeah, he's always going to be that
What
guy,
were you
wasn't
going
he?
to say?
Do you reckon Wellington guys hold on to their school life a bit too long?
Nah, okay, so I told someone this the other day.
Because I feel like whenever I hang out with Wellington dudes, just straight away, like, what school did you go to? Like,
Nah. So I'll tell you.
went to Cole.
I'll tell you this. This will be
I
very.
feel like I went to school in Wellington.
Oh, I bet. Because fucking when we talked with JK that time. And
yeah,
we were
JK's
talking about-
one, and like even like when I hung around Lima and that, they always just talk about school and stuff.
I'll tell you why, bro. And this is going to be quite like controversial, but one reason I think boys that come out of Wellies, like the Wellies high school system, the reason they struggle is because there's no like Welly like high school sports is massive, bro. Like back in the day, you go to a first 15 game and fuck, you easily get a couple thousand people there.
Yeah, it's sick.
Bro, they would pop off. And like now I think the sport is basketball. Like fuck, you'll see these videos, bro, and like it'll be like an indoor court, 1,000 kids in there. Welly Sports pops off, and genuinely, if you're like a superstar rugby player, you're like a superstar in the city. Bro, one cunt who was there's a bunch of dudes that were genuinely, if you saw them when they were walking around at Welly train station, they're getting like people coming up to them and shit.
Really?
Like, there was heaps of guys, like Artie was like that. There were dudes like Jackson Garden Basher, who went to my school. Bro, that dude you would say was genuinely famous, like in high school.
That's cool.
It was crazy.
I like it, bro.
It was crazy.
They should build a series around that, eh?
Nah, honestly, man, like Welly's.
What is it about Wellington that makes it like? Because it kind of reminds me of sort of a Melbourne vibe, where a little bit more hipster, it's completely different to Auckland.
Yeah,
Landscape looks cool.
It definitely is. One of the okay. Here's another example. You speak of Lima. Their team was so good. Wellington College had Lima, Reggie Goods, who like played for the Hurricanes. They had heaps of other guys. Their team was so good, bro. I remember the Dom Post put them on the front page.
Oh wow,
because they were so mean.
Yeah.
So like, what makes Wellies? Why Wellies is probably the only city where this happens is because it's small enough that everyone can find out all these things and know these things, but it's big enough that it feels like you're doing it at scale.
Yeah, true.
And it's the only city in the country that has that like middle ground. It can't really happen in Auckland because Auckland's too big.
Yeah.
And then it can't really happen in anywhere else because there's not enough people. So Wellies is like the only place where this happens. And so I guess back to my point, why I think like a lot of boys really struggle with it is because they actually hit this high and they hit this peak in high school. And it's too early,
It's
bro.
the good looking guy in high school, isn't it?
And it's too early. And this is the craziest thing. This will fucking like be crazy for you. You go from a superstar, and this again, like a lot of people may disagree, but you go from a superstar rugby player, first 15 player in Wellies, to then obviously the next step up is like, you know, wider squad Wellington Lions. You're actually becoming less famous in Wellies.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
Isn't that buzzy?
Yeah. That makes sense.
You've become a professional rugby player and you're now less known. It's fucking crazy, bro. So
do you reckon it's also because like you go 20 minutes, it's a completely different area. Yeah. So if you look at Porirua, like a little bit rough, Cannons Creek, go around the corner, Lower Hart, like you know, it's all very it's not far away, but it's very different.
They're very different.
Yeah,
like,
kind of gives me a Hong Kong vibe. You've been in Hong Kong?
Well, I like low-key grew up around there, but I'm assuming it's like you're meaning by how the areas are all quite close to each other, but
it's so different.
Got their own cultures.
Yeah.
They definitely do. Like Porirua really is probably only 20 minutes away from the hut if you go through the Haywoods. And fuck, you couldn't get any more different than those two places. But Wellies, man, like it's going to high school in Wellies is so mean. But is
that why they always talk about it?
That's why I guess most of us never forget it because it's fucking so cool, bro. Like it's the best, and like it's I truly think like with where rugby's going and the struggle with rugby to connect, I really do think Wellies has always had the answer because it's just kind of this perfect intersection of like all cultures. Because you go down to games, bro, and it's like all kinds of people watching, like more. You know, those games will be more diverse than like, you know, like a Lions game. You got in people that aren't even tied to the school turning up. And so I'd be real interested to see if anyone ever looks into why like Welly sport is like that.
Yeah.
And it hits.
Maybe it's just like the perfect little mix of everything, eh?
It's the perfect mix of everything, bro.
Why is Sevens not working there anymore? Just ran out of juice?
Nah, well, what happened was I remember they changed the liquor laws. Because I used to go to Sevens. I think the last mean year for Sevens was 2011. So I was year 11. I was about 15, 16. And then I'm pretty sure the following year, they changed the liquor law. So what they used to do was, I don't know what the exact rules were, but there was kind of no, like, you know, they sold alcohol all day. I remember it was Friday, Saturday. And what they used to do is, on the Saturday at the end of the tourney, they would block off all of Courtney Place, and bro, that whole like section of the city, which is like the center point of the city, was all just for like getting on the piss, and
they stopped all that,
and they stopped all that, and then people just stopped because they wanted to focus on families, but it's a 2-day tournament, you know, the Friday, which was a big day for people like rocking up. like families aren't going to go on a Friday. Like fucking the kids are at school.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Saturday, like, you know, they'll rock up during the day, but they're going home like before it gets too late.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where they changed it. And, you know, I think a lot of people criticize the drinking culture for the demise of it. And I definitely agree in a way. But if you look at, you know, American sports and how they've really figured out a way to embrace it, you know, like tailgating and, you know, rather than banning it outright, they figured out a way to like make it work within, you know, like in a regulated like, way that builds the system that people then understand and are able to come in and contribute to it constructively. Whereas if you, I don't really know a better word for it, but whereas if you just kind of like, if it's just this like little like burden thing that you don't really even want to touch like a possible solution for it, and you just clean break it. That's what happens. Welly Sevens goes from the most popular thing on the circuit to fucking, you have to move it to another city because no one's turning up.
I heard you got the My FM job. Is that true?
Nah. Who told you that?
Just got some sources back in New Zealand.
Tell me what else you heard.
Is that something that interests you?
Radio is a funny one. Like, I'm a big, I never close any doors, never burn any bridges. I love relationships, love people. And I always like, most of my work and like most of my effort goes towards like doing that. So my FM, I have a great relationship with, like I have a business relationship with them. Like we've done stuff together. And then Tegan is
she's cool.
One of my best mates.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely one of my best friends. So,
like I've never met her, but I feel like I know her.
You'd love her, bro. She's cool. Yeah. She's exactly what you think.
Cool.
What you think she's like. You know, she's from Palmy, small town girl, hardworking parents. Like, and you know, she's in this position that makes her extremely public in New Zealand, but it hasn't had any effect on her because she truly loves like broadcasting and loves radio.
Yeah.
So like, she gets a lot of this, you know, a lot of these like great perks and stuff, but she's in it for like one specific thing. So
that was crazy.
But I didn't get that job
because like it's crazy. Oh, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but when like River Jordan and that left, like I thought that was like the perfect match.
Yeah, like media in New Zealand's a hard one, bro. Like,
is it because it's so small?
It's small. It's really limited opportunities.
Yeah,
like, really limited. And like one thing that you can do in New Zealand is you can kind of like dry yourself up really quickly because everyone like knows each other, and it's definitely like a once you're in kind of thing. It's you know, you can very, very easily just say yes to everything and do almost too much. And so it's like, I guess for me, like my active approach to it was like, you know, I really want to be around for a long time. And so I want to...
So don't throw yourself into everything.
Everything?
Oh,
yeah.
That's almost a Denzel Washington approach to movies.
Right, literally. That's, I know exactly the thing you're referencing. And that's totally...
Because I look at The Rock. The Rock's cool, but if I ain't watching a Rock movie anymore...
exactly.
I know what he's going to do.
You've seen it all.
Sneaks in a rock bottom here and there. Like,
right, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Like Denzel Washington put it perfectly in the thing you're talking about. You want to be the... what's he doing next, as opposed to the, oh, there he is again.
Yeah, for sure. Was he having a crack at The Rock and Kevin Hart, you reckon?
Nah, I think like, I guess with the difference in my approach is because it's always taken me long to get anything. Like, bro, I take ages to
come here.
I've always been a late bloomer on everything. Yeah, it did take ages to get here from Cronulla, but you know, that's my philosophy. I'm just living it in every part of my life. Because I've always taken ages, like I'm never in any, I think one thing people know about me is I'm never in any rush. You know, I'm never in a rush to say yes, never in a rush to do the thing. Because my thing is, I'm going to be around for a long time and I'm going to do what's like impactful to me. So, you know, every relationship, I don't have to like get everything out of it straight away. Because it's like, no, we're going to be, if we connect, we're going to be friends for a long time. We're going to get to something.
Yeah, we're going to do business later.
And you know what else Denzel Washington says in that interview? That same one you're talking about?
What?
He says, I'm leaving here with something. And that's me.
Yeah.
I'm leaving with something.
You always look back on that Dave Chappelle, when he talks about he walked away for like $40 or $60 million.
Yeah.
Like, I love looking back at that type of stuff, and for him to walk away at that time for that type of money.
Totally.
And like, it's the same theory, isn't it? He come back around 10 years later and obviously gets a big Netflix deal and stuff like that, but he didn't sell a soul to do it.
Exactly. One thing, because I've definitely, obviously, like, I've never been in a fucking ridiculous situation like that, but I've turned down, like, obviously always respectfully, some really great opportunities. And the thing that I always leave them with is like, and I say a lot in like a lot of meetings like that where it's like maybe not the best time, is I'm like, I don't think this is the best way that you like will work together. Like, I reckon there's something better for us.
Yeah.
And I truly believe like it's not something I just like kind of say dismissively. My thing is kind of going back again to what I was saying of like, I'm willing to take the time with people. Because so many people, they're like, oh, okay, you're doing this right now. You've got this. Let's quickly chuck something. And it's a Band-Aid solution.
Yep.
Whereas I'm like, now let's figure out how to fucking really get together. Let's figure out how to be Siamese twins. I don't want a Band-Aid.
Yeah,
I want to be connected shoulder to shoulder.
For a long time.
Yeah. Leg to leg.
That's a lot, man.
And whatever else gets merged.
You sort of talked about purpose before. What's your purpose? As a 27-year-old, I know purposes change. I had a guy, Julian, on here the other day. He's worth a couple $100 million or whatever. And he said he doesn't know what his purpose is in life and still...
Is that how much the Hurricanes pay Julian Salvia?
Fucking wish.
Fuck, I might start looking out a pass. Nah, bro, my purpose, so everything that I do is all about accessibility. So that's on a like macro scale and on a micro. So, if I think about on like the macro of it, one of my biggest things is that I realized early that I had this like innate ability to, kind of like move through spaces. So like I went to 12 different schools before high school, moved around like a bunch of different countries. And so because of that upbringing, I have this like ability to just really move into spaces and adapt to them, but in like a genuine way, not like a, not like as,
like a conversational chameleon.
Yeah. So I've always had that ability, bro. And so I knew because I have that privilege as like a Māori, Fijian, a Māori Pacific man, what I realized my purpose is to be able to move into these spaces and open up those doors for my people and for my people, in the ways that they may not be able to do themselves. One thing so I just got back from LA, right? And one thing, I was having some really awesome meetings. And one of the things that I said to like some of the people that I was there with was like, I'm not going to come into these spaces because as, say for example, like they've never seen a Fijian dude before, a lot of these people. I would say they've seen Māori dudes, Cliff Curtis and Taika,
yeah,
fucking hanging around Hollywood. Bro, that dude fucking owns the place, man.
Taika,
yeah, bro. Taika.
Does he live here, back and forth? Because he's about here sometimes.
Bro, cunt's probably got 20 houses.
Yeah,
he probably lives on Stewart Island.
Good on him, bro. That dude's talented.
He's proper cracked it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like one of the approaches that I take with it is like, I'm a Fijian. I'm a Fijian man, young Fijian man. Love my culture, love my people. I could approach it as, I'm like the speaker, the representative of Fijians, but my thing is like, nah, I'm not. I'm the first one here and I'm the one here to open the door. I'm not going to speak for Fijians. I'm not going to speak for Māori because I'm going to be the one to open the door. They can come through, speak for themselves. And that's what I've realized like my purpose is.
Cool, I love that.
Yeah, so accessibility on that broader sense is how we do it. And then how I approach every single thing I make is through that same way, accessibility. So if I even think of The Boys Are Decorating, which is like this web series that we're doing about getting young men into like interior design. If I think about, the community of interior design, which is an extremely beneficial one to like young men, it's like, how do I create a vehicle that makes that accessible to them? Okay. Something like that's more human-centric as opposed to of all the like nuances of interior design, but it's still embracing like what's cool about it that I know will be really relatable to young men.
Yep.
So even on that, like, on that smaller sense, I'm like, okay, that's how we've made something accessible. to a group that didn't have it before.
Yeah. I love like environment's really important to me, the way like office looks and my house feels and people I hang around with and stuff I listen to. And obviously like your home's your main one, eh? Like I'm office and home is basically my two places where I go, but like I like things a certain way. Even like now, I'm like looking out there, and I'm always like, man, I'm just like looking around. I was like, no, something's off about this place. I'm trying to, and I've been watching these Feng Shui fucking TikToks and that little Asian dude on there.
Yeah.
So now you know.
I know the one. Bro, what's important to you? Like, what are your? Yeah, no, I'll reverse the question on you because I'm genuinely.
I don't know, like it changes. Like I just want to. I think at the heart of, I just want to leave an impact, and I want to make a change because over, like we've had successful businesses. There's months I've made a fuckload of money. Like that type of shit doesn't make me happy. It's just kind of like the small messages I get. And if say like YKTR Sports, for example, if we can make an impact through there that changes, like say even tall poppy syndrome by 5%, or we help players transition post football and they start to build businesses. Like I think that's a type of legacy that I'd want to leave. And I get credited for it at the moment. It does make me feel good.
Well, what's like your specific impact though? Because mine's, you know, that opening doors for like multi-Pacific in spaces that they may not be in yet.
Yeah.
Like, do you have like a specific one for you that like you really care about, and it may not even be something you're doing?
Yeah, probably not as defined as yours, and I wish I'd had that sort of mission statement on my life.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, but I think it'll come. Like honestly, 5-6 years ago, it was just I didn't want to work for anyone else, and then like for YKTR was my vehicle to do that. And then YKTR, like I see the umbrella company of YKTR as just vehicles to like hire my friends. Like Lukey used to just DM me. And I think you got a similar story here. Yeah. He just sort of rocked up one time, and I just knew. I just like, fuck, here's a job, a scope. Like I didn't know he was going to be a good podcaster, but I was like, fuck, here's an opportunity. That type of stuff makes me happy. And like even going like, oh bro, here's a pay rise, like all that. And I've been on the other side of it where a lot of people know our story. I've hired more friends and it hasn't worked out, and I've had to let them go. And we've had like Caleb, who was one of our videographers here, and he's openly talked about now is like when he's had a couple suicide attempts, and that's when he was here, and I was the only person that knew about it at the time. So I don't know. I feel like I'm here to leave an impact. What that impact is, I think it'll always change.
What's like because like I'll speak even more to like my purpose. Where my purpose came from was like a personal struggle that I had. And so I guess that's why for me, like I know it so innately, is because my thing was that was something that I personally experienced. And I saw it, I was so close to it that then I was able to look at it from like a systemic level.
Yeah.
And then how I can impact it on like the bigger picture. Is there like one for you that you think about that maybe you don't go through that you did when you were younger, or maybe you do go through like a personal struggle, something that you're working through?
Nah, like the struggle I have with the moment is like guilt because I had like good parents. Like, because I look at a lot of my friends around me and I seem to attract these types of people where they've had real troubled upbringings. Even like my friend who lives with me now, like when they tell me these stories about their past, like I kind of feel like, I don't know why. It's just recently I spent time at home. I was like, fuck, I can call my mom and my dad right now. I've got both parents have always been together. My dad was like my football coach. He coached myself and Quade, and we always had success. My mom was big on education. So
Shout out QC.
We always I always had to do well in school. So like I just had this kind of really good balance of life, and a lot of times I do feel guilty for that. And I try and take people with me. Like that's my thing, eh?
And that's a struggle for you that you feel guilt that.
Yeah.
For
only recently, because I've only just started to really. Someone asked me a question on the podcast the other time, and like a lot of times I'm like, just do it. Like, why don't you just do this? Or why don't you just have a crack? Or why don't you try? And I was just, we've all just been raised differently. And we're all like, you can move through rooms now because you went to 12 different schools. Like, yeah. My house was always steady. I always went to the same school. My small town, everyone knew everyone. Like I'm like solid foundations, but I grew up in a town where a lot of people didn't have much and you just shared what you have. So even if I do become successful as fuck, I'll still, anyone who's close to me, I'll take them with me. Or as long as they want to be there.
I feel you.
And I don't have a family too, bro. That's I think if I had a wife and kid, probably my priorities change a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with Scope. Like Scope has been here for about 2.5 years, and like got a kid in it now, and his priorities change. Yeah, I don't know. I know what your question you're asking. I just don't have the answer for it.
I feel you. I guess I'm like just trying to talk it through with you because I hear you, and and what your experience is. But I think because I don't know. The main reason I'm asking, bro, is because like I know like a lot about you boys, and I know a lot about like the journey.
You're like an OG fan, eh?
Fuck yeah.
You emailed me once.
You fucking cunt. We've already talked about this. Fucking hell. For anyone that's listening, I hope you think about this forever, you fucking piece of shit. That was when was that? That was 2018?
Yeah.
2018 back in the day. And I think I was doing my podcast. You hadn't started podcasting at that point.
Oh, hadn't I?
Hell no.
No.
I think you maybe started 2019?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I remember I
thought I was early too when I first started, yeah.
No, you were. I would say the wave probably didn't hit till I'd say maybe start of 21. I think COVID had a big say on it.
Yeah, we were going hard during COVID because it had nothing else to do.
Yeah, I think COVID had a big surge of it. Because I started mine in 2017 and there was no one doing it.
No one, yeah.
Like, even just the infrastructure on like getting, because now I look at it and there's platforms that help you like upload it back then, but upload it to like platforms now. Back then I had to like individually upload it to like each platform.
Oh, torture.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. It was the worst. So but yeah, I reached out to you back in 2018 and I was maybe a year and a half into stand up.
Yeah.
Just been doing this potty. And then sent this massive message to Ice. And you guys will love what I got back. It was fucking nothing. So that was.
And it was weird that you popped up, and then like I don't know. I think all your skits were starting to take off, and I was like, "Who is this dude?" And then I just looked through, and you were there, bro.
It was funny because I had a missus at the time, and when I emailed you, and then we were still together, kind of when things started rolling for me. And I remember telling her, I was like, "Watch this. I know. I've started making waves."
Yeah.
And I hear from Ice.
Fuck, I wish I was that cool.
And then Beauty, I got a box full of shit in the mail, and I was like,
made it.
But still can't reply to an email. All right. Nah. But yeah, bro, that's always a funny full circle thing for me. And obviously, like, clearly I don't take it personally. Like, I know that.
Yeah, holding a grudge.
I know how it goes.
What was it like being homeless?
Bro, that was crazy. It's something that I only really started talking about like publicly. The first time I really talked about it properly was I did this like mental health podcast like last year, and then I stepped away from it. I was like, "Fuck, that's the most I've ever talked about it." Bro, like you know what brown families are like, man. So like, when I first started comedy, I've got to put it into context. Like, my mum came from Fiji, bro, when she was really young. Her and my nan came, broke as fuck. Didn't have anything. And, so that's like, I guess, where like the history of where she's come from. My dad, like, my dad had a big family. My grandparents really struggled. They didn't grow up with much. So I've got two parents, my father being Māori, my mum being Fijian, who they've worked their way up in their life through one way, and they both basically turned to corporate. They worked in IT, were extremely successful, got my dad around the different countries and stuff. And they
Flash Māori.
Yeah, so they sacrificed so much, to really get there. They weren't, they didn't do any tertiary education. They both started working at fucking WINS, which back then was called social welfare. They both started working there and just worked their way up, bro. And so, when you've got parents like that who, like I watched, absolutely kill themselves to make a life for me and my brothers, they sacrificed a lot to get us to a good school and stuff. And, we had a good life. It was really, really difficult when I then decided after all that I was going to try to be a comedian. Because, your parents work your ass off for you to then continue like the work that they've done. And then that's almost like you turning around and it's a slap in the face.
Yep.
So it's something I've been open with for years, and I think they've really come to terms with me like talking about it. But basically, like we had a massive period where we weren't really talking to one another.
Yeah.
Just because that was quite contentious, and it's not just that. Like it was a lot of other things, and so because of that, then I didn't really have a whole lot to turn to.
Well, no mates or anything. Just can I crack? Or was it too embarrassed to ask?
Yeah,
or?
too embarrassed. There was a lot of like shame. A lot of my boys, bro. Like I lived in a flat of 10 dudes, and bro, like 5 of them are doctors now, and then the other 4, one's like he's high up, like I think he's like a financial analyst or some bullshit. I don't know. Like he fucking
something fancy.
Works with money and does coke. Like that's that's what that cunt does. And then like another one of my mates is a very successful like property valuer, and then another one of my mates is in like he's like a forestry estate salesperson, and he like owns the company alongside the stuff. So like my mates were doing all these things, bro. And here's me fucking trying to be a comedian, like got no money, bro. Literally, like I can't even put $5 in my car, so I'm walking to gigs. Like, do you remember Auckland much, bro? I lived in Epsom, and I used to walk to Ponsonby to do stand up.
Oh, I can't really remember it, but I remember Epsom Road.
It's a 2-hour walk, bro.
Is it?
I used to do it.
Yeah, it's not that far.
Nah, because I would have to walk from.
What part of Epsom Road? Like all the way down the other end?
Almost, like pretty much Onehunga.
Yeah,
so I lived near the roundabout.
I thought you were right up the top.
Nah, so I lived near the roundabout, pretty close to the roundabout in Onehunga. So that was a 2-hour walk. So I'd walk that 4-hour return to go do gigs in Ponsonby.
How much did you get for a gig in Ponsonby?
Oh, you're doing it for free.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Bro. And then I'm labouring on the side. But then what happened was when the boys, they all went away overseas, and we moved out of our flat. I was only paying like $60 a week because I was in the garage.
I was about to ask you that. Yeah.
I was only paying $60 a week because I was in the garage. So I was sweet. Like I'd labor on the side, like do a couple of things, and then I was all good. But I really struggled to get a job because what would happen was I didn't have any experience on my CV, right? So I'd go to these job interviews for like something like an admin assistant, which I was very capable of doing. But they're like, nah, you don't have a uni degree. So like,
for an admin assistant.
Well, because this was before COVID, bro. Like places, no one was fucking hiring. So I couldn't get those jobs, but then I'd go apply for a labouring job, bro. And then I'd turn up and, I'd try, give my best like first impression, and I'd turn up in like a suit and stuff, but then they'd hear me talk and they'd be like, no, we know you're just going to leave as soon as you get something better.
Oh, okay.
So I was stuck in this middle ground, bro, where I couldn't fucking get anything. So I was just doing all these cashies and shit. And so I was doing enough.
You on the dole? When did you get on the dole?
Try to, bro. Like I couldn't get on the dole.
Why not?
Fucking bunch of different reasons. It's harder to get on than you think, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, couldn't get on anything, and then the boys moved out. Suddenly I now have to find a flat. So I slept on my mate's couch for about a month. And then I just kind of like overstayed my welcome with the boys, and then just started like living out of my car.
Yeah.
And then lived out of my car for probably like 3 months. And then
is that a long 3 months or?
Bro, honestly, it was sweet.
It was alright.
I had it pretty down pat. Like I eventually got a cleaning job, cleaning caravans. And so where's
the caravans in Auckland?
South Auckland.
Oh, you go all the way there.
At the airport.
Yeah.
So I was cleaning caravans, and I had a pretty good setup, bro. Like what I used to do was I'd park up in Mission Bay, right? I'd sleep in Mission Bay, and then I'd go shower at City Fitness because I was only paying, because City Fitness was $7 a week.
$7 a week, yeah.
So I was only paying $7 a week, and I'd go shower City Fit. And then my office, I would use Epsom Library. And I'd just work out of Epsom Library every day, bro.
Yeah.
That was all I did.
You got to get creative when you're in those spots. Like we've done plenty of work with homeless people. Like I'm inquisitive, so if I see someone, I'll just ask them questions. And that's like some of the things. They like buy a gym membership.
Yeah, bro.
That's where your showers go. The library for PowerPoints. Yeah, bro. They all had phones and stuff too. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, because every
show me NRL highlights and stuff.
Every library has Wi-Fi, And so you just kind of figure it, like, you really just make it work. And, like, I remember, bro, like, really crazy stuff looking back now is, so, for example, I was because I'd sleep out at Mission Bay. There was this one night where I was parked up in the hills and I was working on my laptop, right? And I was working on the script, and the cops pulled up behind me, bro.
Yeah.
They were like, they put the lights on and everything. Went down my window. They're like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just like working on the script." And they're like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm writing." And they're like, "What are you writing?" And then they were just like, "Yeah, I don't know. We just thought it didn't seem right that you were just kind of sitting here in this car, like, you know, because it was Mission Bay is a flash area, obviously." And they were pretty like fucking weird about it, to be honest. But then once I kind of told them that I was writing like a comedy and stuff, and the guy was actually asking me about what it was about, and then when I was telling him stuff, he was like, "Okay,
Yeah, he's
cool,
not making
man."
it up.
Yeah. And then this is the funny part, is that we got on a good vibe, and he was like, "If you could just like maybe drive a little bit down the road, mate. I think like some residents like
Starting to
a
wig
little bit
out.
unsettled. So if you could just drive a little bit down the road," I was like, "Yeah, sweet, bro." And that was 2018. 4 years later, bro, that becomes Bounce's show that got picked up on Comedy Central.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, bro.
That's pretty cool.
So
What's the old technique of sleeping in the car? Are you going passenger all the way back, or you in the back seat?
nah, it would vary. Usually just driver's seat, chuck it back,
Yeah.
blanket. But yeah, passenger seat every now and then, you chuck your feet up on the fucking dashboard. It was pretty, bro. It was like, if I really think back to it, like, it was by no means the hardest thing that's happened to me in the last few years.
It wasn't?
Nah,
No.
I've been through
What, living in Mission Bay? That's all right.
beachfront of Mission Bay. Fucking,
Yeah.
I've cracked it.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, bro.
right. Bit of
Bro,
exercise.
so this, I cracked it with the food too, bro. I'll tell you what my go with the food was. So Countdown, they don't have them anymore. So I would have been fucked if it was this day and age. They have them, but they're smaller. Back in the day, they used to have these garlic and pesto rolls, and the rolls were huge, bro. They were like this big, and they were $3. So every day I'd buy a $3 roll, and then third for breakfast, third for lunch, third for dinner, because they were that big.
Yeah. Oh, pleasure.
Yeah, bro. Cracked it. But then I've seen them now, and they were tiny, and I was telling my little brother about it, and I was showing him. I was like, bro, I'd be fucked if I was doing that now.
I heard, Fortify, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told a story back in the day when he was struggling for money. He used to go through a drive-through, and he'll get to the thing, and he'll go, "Oh, sorry, I forgot my card." But he'll make sure it's packed.
Oh, true.
Yeah, and then when he gets to the counter, he just, "Oh, is that your order?" And he filmed it on YouTube one time.
hey.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like what other shit maybe I used to do. Like,
You just got a half steal, You just got to call it what it is.
I was pretty lucky. Like, I had it because I reckon I'm a really good example of one of the big problems in New Zealand, because I was an extremely like capable person, but I just fell through the cracks, and like that's kind of what fucked me. Like, if you think about even my struggle to get a job, you know, there were certain jobs where, because I'll be completely honest, like, I'll be real up front. The jobs I was applying for, bro, they wanted immigrants because they wanted people they could fuck over. They didn't want a dude who was gonna like be hitting them up like, "Yo, why are you saying like I can work overtime, but you're only gonna pay me 40 hours?" Like, they don't want a cunt like that doing the jobs I was applying for.
Yeah.
So I wasn't being able to get those jobs, but then, like a legal office in the middle of the city, they don't want a young brown dude, like the first person that these people walk in and see. So that's how I fell through the middle. And then, like, you know, if you think of, you know, what a lot of the crisis in New Zealand now, of like with the cost of living, but there's people earning 100K in New Zealand fucking on the bare bones of their ass. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Why is New Zealand so expensive? I don't get it.
I honestly don't really know like too much of the economics of it. Like, I think us being like a isolated island makes a big part of it, because, bro, like we obviously, you know, we have a great dairy industry, great farming industry. We export
All of it,
pretty much all of it. So we're importing shit, and then, you know, I think with COVID, and then the fact that New Zealand's already a hard place to get shit to, you know, we're kind of the last priority on people's list. Like, they can raise the prices of shit. Like, that's why there's a, there was a jib shortage. There's now an egg shortage. Like,
I saw that, bro.
There's fucking like everything back home. So that's why everything cost a fuckload. And yeah, man, like I think the New Zealand public, bro, like they're being done a number on at the moment. But what I think my generation, we're struggling with, but we're also recognizing, it's like, fuck, if you not only can get through what we're going through at the moment, but you can thrive in it, bro, you can fucking be successful anywhere.
Do you know what's sad, bro? Like like the mental health troubles that we have back home.
Bro, that's fucked.
I grew up in a town. We had the highest youth suicide rate in the country, like per capita.
Yeah.
We had the highest takeaway joints in per capita too intake.
Bro, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you're in high school, how many people did you know personally that committed suicide?
Oh, about 4 or 5.
Yeah. You know that number is fucking crazy. I probably had the same number of people.
And there was more around the town. Like we used to always go to netball in the morning on Saturday, then play rugby or something in the afternoon, and just rock up and it's like, bro, this dude like hung himself.
Yeah, bro.
It's pretty sad.
Like I'm not even gonna like try. Like obviously I do a lot of work in like men's mental health back home, but when it comes to understanding like, the broad systemic issue, like I know health inequities like big in New Zealand, like lack of access for like special rural areas and and poor areas. Like I know there's a big issue there, and I think that's a big part of the mental health issue as well. Like if you think about a lot of the areas that really struggle, they're poor areas.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I grew up in a poor area. I grew up in Wanui. You growing up in Toke. These aren't areas with like a massive amount of resources. So when we're talking about resources being allocated to specific like issues, areas like where we're from, they're the fucking last place to get that shit.
Yeah.
But they're the ones with all the issues. So like, that's just one of the things with back home, bro. And like, I think I really feel for like a lot of people back home in New Zealand because you know what Kiwis are like, bro. We're the last cunts to ever complain about that shit.
We're happy to be the laid back,
man,
like easygoing, Bob's your uncle style person, eh?
Totally. And so I guess with like, that's why with me, like people will often say like, you're politically minded. Like, do you care about that stuff? I'm the first cunt to say that I don't know, but I like care about it, and like I wanna like know and figure it out and understand it because, I think the issues are so complicated back home that they're so complicated to even just figure out, let alone understand, let alone express.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if I can only do one of those things, like I'm gonna do that. So for me, like I'll never say that I know, but I'm gonna talk about my experience. And it may be wrong and it may have a lot of like inaccuracies and shit. But this is just me as a person experiencing it, going through it, seeing it for how I see it. I'm gonna talk about that shit because we're, if there's only one of those 3 things that I'm good at, it's that part.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where I sit as well.
Yeah.
Like even just talking about experiences in the past, I've had so many people reach out to me and say that they've actually contemplated suicide or been lying on train tracks, and it's kind of scary because I'm not trained in anything like that to deal with it.
Yeah.
But they're like, your content's helped me through. So I think the best thing that we can do without any education in this place is just try the best to be ourselves and be open and share our experiences, because a lot of people look at you and look at me like, I grew up in a town like Toke, he was an hour over from me. And the reason why I resonate with this, even in sports, I remember Lance Hohaya, he was from Huntley, which is like an hour and a bit.
Shit.
Yeah, he's like an hour and a half away. But I remember we used to play his junior side, and I used to always think, fuck, if that dude can make it from a team I play against, like why can't I? So when you look at someone like stand-up comedian, or you're into business now, I'm into business, it's not just like, oh, you got to be an All Black.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. Like,
yeah.
the only successful dudes I used to see on TV were like footy players or All Blacks. So hopefully we can change that narrative, bro.
Totally. And I think like another one with me is, I guess I just want to present myself as like a young man who's inquisitive and like making it okay for us to ask questions, for us to not know, for us to want to know. Because I feel like that's like not a big thing. Like I find, and I don't know, like it's probably a big thing saying that this is broadly like a men issue, but it's very easy to fall into this headspace where you feel like your only value is in knowing or understanding something. So if you don't know, fucking don't say anything.
Yeah.
And if you do know, you have to know everything. So it's either one or the two.
I got a theory on this of Islanders, and I used to see it with the boys in football. They'd always struggle with authority because as kids, like, you're not allowed to talk back to your parents.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to have an open, like, it was just one way. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't eat it, go to bed now, or good at hiding. Like, we were not taught to communicate. So I used to see the Islander boys go into like Ivan Cleary's office, and they'd have something to say, but they just didn't know how to express themselves in someone of a position of power or of hierarchy. And basically, once you leave high school,
it's a real thing, bro.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah, I think so too.
That's a real issue.
The boys will walk out and just backstab the coach in Tongan.
Bro, absolutely. It's like,
why don't you just say something? But and even like, and you find it, and I find this in New Zealand is like, because we've got so much bottled up emotions as islanders and as men, what happens when we get on a drink? But just all lets out and just, boy, 1 o'clock in the 1 o'clock in the morning, boys are punching on, or they exert their aggression through physical violence. And sometimes that transcends out to bigger things like women and kids. And because we're not taught to openly communicate, it's kind of that long tail fucking effect.
It's in the stats, bro. It's in the stats. And that's like, I guess with me as somebody that finds himself in a position of privilege constantly, as somebody that gets to step into spaces that, not everyone does. I guess that's why with me, I try and present myself and as authentic and as true to like where I'm at on whatever journey I'm on as possible, because like we're so accustomed to seeing somebody as like a finished product, or somebody as, as somebody who's only speaking because they understand all, every single aspect of whatever the fuck like they're speaking on, especially us as Islanders and Māori just as much. But we're allowed to be flawed. Like we're allowed to really be flawed and not understand, and our voice still actually matters just as much. Because I don't think that's something that we get told as much as other cultures do. Like Pākehā are allowed to fuck up. Like their parents, tell them that as they grow up, and I'm saying that as a good thing. I think we, as Polynesians, almost need to learn how to give ourselves the same, like the same respect.
Yeah,
and. You see it on the smallest level. Like, when you're with a bunch of your boys, like a bunch of brown boys, and you get even the littlest thing wrong, what's everyone doing?
It's paying you. Yeah, laughing.
You're hearing about that for the rest of your life.
Oh, sorry.
One example I always use is like, what's a brown boy's worst nightmare?
What?
It's sitting around with the boys, and you've got the UE boom. Because if you pick the wrong song, that song is your nickname for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I guess like where I'm at in my perspective as being a young brown man is like, we're allowed to have our nuances, we're allowed to be flawed, we're allowed to be whatever we want. And it's actually more so saying that as a reminder to each other, because as soon as we understand that, we're then able to go out into the world and carry that. But because we cut each other down before we even get a chance to get there, fuck, we got no chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like everyone's like always, and we'll roll this into entrepreneurship and your journey into business. Like I used to think entrepreneurship was about IQ and smarts. It's more so about courage and perseverance. Like courage to start, and perseverance when things start going bad, when you're living in your car, when all the boys are paying down, you just stick to it. And if you keep sticking to it, everyone else who's just similar in your industry kind of falls off, and then you get put in this position of perceived success.
My thing with every single person that I've met that's successful in like my view of success.
How do you view success?
So I view success in that you're living a life that's truly authentic to how you want to live it. And that's you're working in a space that you're passionate about. What you really care about, you're expressing that through all the outlets that you can possibly express that to. To me, that's true success. Every single person that I've ever met that was doing that was great with people. And they understood that the world is really, this will sound like fucking trivial and, really straightforward, but we forget this shit. The world isn't processes, it's not numbers, it's not fucking skills. It's like, it's your connection with people. That's what's going to decide where you end up. And every single person I've met that's successful in that realm, they understood that innately. Like, bro, we were just with Bo Ryan, right? And I look at that guy, he's in my eyes encompasses that innately in every sense of the way. This guy's a successful rugby league player is in a very small percentage of the population of elite athletes, let alone elite rugby league players. So he's already achieved success in something that's very difficult to achieve success in. But he's now also one of the most like lauded broadcasters, media personalities in the. So he's successful at a second thing. And why that is because this guy understands, where the value is, and it's in the people. It's in connecting with them. He connects to them on a broad level. But then you think of it even on a micro level, like, bro, we walk up to the cafe. He knows the lady that owns the cafe and like everything. Hey, Marty, like he fucking knew everything about her. Was like telling us a story about her. And,
Yeah.
Like,
Some people just got it like that, eh? Yeah.
he's got it like that. Dude's got it like that, and so that's
could
something
almost-
that I keep.
You could say that about Mace as well. Like he'll come in, he'll meet with someone once and remember their name. And if you're someone like I say, like a Jackson who's like a footy fan, or even the first time, like I think first time Lukey met him, Lukey's there having a photo with him and shit.
Yeah.
It was still early days, but next time he come in, hey Lukey, hey boom.
Yeah, man.
And just bro, he's like, and the boys just fuck, you remember my name.
And I mean, you look at Mace.
He didn't need to be needing to remember people's names, eh?
But also, if you look at his life, his career, he was same thing with Bowie. Extremely successful in one thing already. About to be extremely successful. It's hard to strike lightning once. That cunt's gonna do it twice.
Yeah,
Bowie's done it multiple times. Like this is this is a thing that I guess I'm kind of getting to in this point of my life is valuing that above all. And I guess to bring it back to what we were talking about before, that's one of the biggest things that as brown people we don't recognize, that is the number one thing. And we're fucking good at that.
Good at it, yeah.
We're fucking good at that, bro. We're so good at that. How often can you be around a group of Islanders and you've never met them, and not only do you feel like you've known them, you feel like you're fucking related to them?
Yeah, for sure. I was in, we were in Paris, and I just finished traveling Malta on my own, so I was like, fuck, a little bit like bored and lonely.
Yeah.
Linked up with Lima. I've met Lima twice, and they've been in cool cities, to be fair. And then he linked up with a couple other Islander boys, guy named Kamami, same thing, exact same thing.
It's like you've known them 20 years.
Yeah, and I still talk to him now. I hung out with him for one night. I talk to him more than dudes I normally talk to. But he was fucking funny.
Bro, and then you think about that. You think about that skill right there that those boys have innately. They make you feel like you've known them for 20 years. And how often do you run into people like that? Never. And so I guess that's one of the really big things.
I always, like, say for me, for example, I come over here, because all my mates I'm an Islander, but they're like Samoans and went to church. So we grew up doing like a lot of things. Like obviously we play sports, can play multiple sports, touch, volleyball, whatever. All play instruments as well. Like a lot of Islanders are like very multi-talented. So we come over here, you're like, I say like your little party trick. I'm like, nah, like everyone can do this.
Yeah.
And like River Jordan's like a good example of that. He can sing, he can dance, he's fucking funny. Super talented and like when I look at him, it's like this dude reminds me of my mates in high school, kind of put together.
And what's the first thing we do when you acknowledge that Islanders?
Yeah, it is what it is.
Nah.
I think you're the man.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
You could, bro. You like okay. Literally, one of my very close mates. She's a doctor. A doctor, and she's Samoan. And this one time I was with her, I was like, "You're literally a fucking doctor. Like, do you know how many brown doctors do you know?" She's like, "Yeah, like a few, but I guess like not many." And I was like, "Well, not many. You're one of them." I mean, in Auckland, specifically talking Auckland, and
not an Apia.
yeah, I think they're going spare there. So, and she was just like, "Oh, nah, but it's different," or it's like, "Nah, doesn't mean no." But there's all these doctors, but that's how we're the first to dismiss ourselves. And the one thing that we don't recognize is that we're the first to dismiss ourselves. And unfortunately, the way the world still is, there's going to be people that are ready to dismiss us too, and we've done the job for them.
Yeah.
So that's I guess my thing is, not only am I never going to dismiss myself, my ability, I'm never going to dismiss my worthiness of being in a room, or like me being allowed in some of these spaces, and I'll never do that to anyone else, because I've seen so many people cut themselves down before they've even got into.
Oh, I see it every day.
See it every day, bro. So
every day. Like even in sports, like there was dudes that are way better than me and Quaid growing up. Like we were probably the more competitive ones and would happily go out for a run. And obviously those are the skill sets that take you a bit further in life. But plenty of dudes, and everyone's like got this story. Like Ninja Mystic sing that song about it. Yeah, it sort of reminds me of like. And you could go any aspect of life, basketball, football, whatever, anywhere around the world. There's always dudes more talented than you, but sometimes they don't just have the mindset or the resources or the parenting to transition to that next phase. Bro, like you do, bro. You slipped through the cracks. Yeah. Found a way out, but you could have gone the other way,
there's
bro.
So many more that slip, and bro,
how many funny dudes that could be super successful that would walk past on the street every day and he's rattling a tin?
I know a fucking,
that's scary, bro.
I know a fucking bunch, bro, that like they have more than I had when I started.
Yeah.
They have more. And I was just so lucky that I was so lucky that I had the ability to milk fucking everything that I have like, within me and absolutely run with it. Bro, one thing I wanted to ask you is because one of my favorite books of all time is The Outliers.
Oh, yeah, great book.
Have you read it?
Malcolm Gladwell.
How fucking good is that book?
Yeah.
One of the most impactful like parts of that book is where it talks about. Do you remember the part where it talks about the two kids and the one kid was brought up,
the alcoholic lawyer?
So he was like a genius, but his dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then the other kid who was like, he was average, but his parents told him to ask for everything. And they told him that he had options constantly. But then like where it flips it is that the kid with the alcoholic dad is a white kid. And then the other kid is a black kid. And obviously the black kid became successful, the white kid didn't. So there's two impactful moments. I'll get around to a question. The second impactful one is where he talks about, I guess like the process around what it takes for like to be successful, and he used the birthday thing.
Yeah.
So basically, in this book, Outliers, this guy Malcolm Gladwell, he comes up with this like formula, and it effectively says if you're born before July, you're more likely to be
successful,
an elite athlete.
Yeah.
And he uses the Yankees from like maybe the 50s.
Does ice hockey analogies of the junior ones. Yeah.
And fucking most of the teams born before July. And I think I did the math on it. I think an All Blacks team from whatever year, 22 of them, 17 born before July.
Crazy.
July or before. Crazy. So where I wanted to go with this is, you think of a small town like Toke. How the fuck does QC, Sean Maitland, and that fuck, there's even more like Maria Tutaya.
Yeah. Joey Manu.
Yeah, Joey Manu.
Yeah.
How do you guys, how does that happen? But I want you to talk specifically to you, QC and Sean, because you three were there at the same time.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Like I was with Shawnee over the break, like, and to go to that. So like in rugby league, you go on a calendar year. So in that book, like they start the year in June. So basically, the basic theory is that if someone's born in January and someone's born in December, that guy's got a whole year of development and growth. And it doesn't sound like much, but when you're like 12, 13, 14.
It's a massive difference.
Especially when you're going up to Auckland.
Yeah.
And that dude's got a beard already and drove here.
Oh, fucking no.
Yeah. You're like that, bro. You're looking up.
Yeah, he got his learners first.
I don't know, bro, because maybe I actually... Like, because my dad was our coach. I've talked about this on the podcast the other day. Like, my dad was my football coach. I lived 2 doors down from a primary school. I had 10 footballs in the back of my...
I did hear you talk about that.
Yeah.
And they talk about that in the book.
Yeah.
When they use Steve Jobs and Bill Gates.
I thought about that. And like they talk about this guy who plays ping pong. Like, if he was one house over, he would have been in a different district, school zone, where he wouldn't have the ping pong coach he used to be.
Isn't that
like,
crazy?
Yeah. And like Quaid used to always be at my house and would train together.
So you guys would both go down, and then Sean would have been the same. So
Sean lived behind the primary school as well. So we used to go and kick balls.
That's fucking interesting.
Yeah. And maybe we all thought we all could make it. Like,
but
you got no one. We talked about the Islander theory where no one's trying to really bring you down. Like you got me, Quaid, Sean, like all go to primary school together. Cricket. And Sean was the superstar out of us.
Was he?
Yeah. He like,
because he just would have been so quick.
He went to athletics, bro, so he was so much quicker than
he
everyone.
Been so fast.
And like me and Quaid were always trying to catch him and try and be competitive with him, but like naturally he's way more talented than any of us. But we just always kind of had that chip on our shoulder.
No shit.
And then I had an older brother that used to like pick on us too, like me and Quaid. Like me and Quaid used to get hidings.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't know, bro. And then you go into a small town, there's nothing to do. Your parents are kicking you outside the house, so. It's just the reps thing. I just honestly think about that. Like you go to school, play touch in the morning, touch at like lunchtime. I'd train twice a week. And then my dad coached a men's side. So I'd train with the men's as well. We were just always doing shit.
That's so interesting. That really hits to me in the book in Outliers where he talks about Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. So this book's fucking amazing. He talks about this. So he talks about the fact. So you think of Microsoft and you think of Apple. Probably one and two the most influential companies of all time.
Yeah,
give or take. And he fucking figures out this crazy ass thing is that not only they're born like weirdly close to each other, it may be like within a year or two, and in like a very specific area. So I think Bill Gates. So he figures out that there was this technology that was invented, and it was obviously around the computer. And there was a period where it wasn't so advanced that everyone had it, but it had enough advancement that somebody could come along and start to learn it.
Yeah.
Because there'd already been so much research. And he was saying there was this one very specific period of time where there was that computer, right? And that computer was only in 2 universities. And the 2 universities that it was at, Steve Jobs lived near one of them, and Bill Gates lived near the other one.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Sometimes it's just luck.
It's fucking crazy like that.
Yeah. Like your parents had sex at the right time, you're born in the right like area. I don't know.
My parents had sex on my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
So I was born July.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shout out my old man. But
yeah, that's crazy.
and mum. But
Well, let's talk about your business journey because that's probably the thing I'm most interested in.
yeah.
Just individually, I love business. I love structure. Building out different business models. And like a lot of people think they want to get into business. I think it's a lot harder. So I'll give you an example. Like there's plenty of good barbers out there that like should only stay a barber.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like because they know once they can start running the business and you have to start looking at other people's pay wages, it takes away from the actual skill set. Yeah. What made you go, fuck, I generally think I can run a good business?
Bro, so I ran my first business. I started my first business when I was 14.
Yeah.
Just a clothing brand.
Was it good?
So at the time I was upset. Like I've always been probably my biggest influence, who I look up to the most. And it's funny because I actually always forget to mention him as having this kind of impact on me. But Pharrell has always been massive for me.
Yeah.
Just the broadness of what he does.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story about him one time. He took like 3 years off just to make chairs or some shit like that. Like that's cool.
He's like that, bro. Like and he, if you think about his, I'd probably give him the same. I'd definitely give him the same credit as what I gave the boys. Like easily one of the most influential musicians of all time. There's so many musicians that you can thank for Pharrell's influence on them. And same within fashion. You would argue Bathing Apes still continued like influence, and that came from Japan. But the person that brought that to the States was Pharrell.
Yeah,
and so I've always
you throw Kanye up there too.
No, you'd throw Kanye out there.
He's influential in that sort of sense.
Totally. But I think
Pharrell's just a bit cooler the way he does it.
Yeah. But back then, Pharrell was the guy because this was like I was like 14, so this would have been 2010, maybe 2009, and so it was called Interhype Clothing.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it was pretty like buzzy and quirky, and the first design I did was like an ice cream.
Yeah,
and it comes from Pharrell's fucking thing. So that was my first business, bro. Ran that at 14, and then that kind of flopped. Got all the shirts printed in Thailand, like fucking.
Oh, you're going full production.
Oh, bro, I went ham. Got 1,000 of them printed in Thailand, sold 3. So my mum had to send the rest to Fiji, bro. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. So there's a bunch of kids running around with Interhype ice cream teas in Fiji. Started my second business at 15, which was a college first 15 news.
That's cool.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
So, and that got up to 12,000 followers on Facebook back in like 2010, 11.
Were you trying to sell ads or anything on it, or nah? Just
I was 15. I had no money on it.
Yeah.
Oh, selling ads, you mean?
Selling ads as a.
Nah,
you wouldn't even think like that.
I didn't. Nah, because I just loved because of how influential the First 15 culture was, I realized that there was no one covering it. And so, bro, I was doing crack up shit, like, because I knew the N and I knew all the boys, bro. I was sharing news that, like, no one knew.
Yeah.
Bro, I remember, this is so funny, fucking, Albie's one of my boys now. But I broke, like, the news of Anton Leonard-Brown, like, having an injury, because one of the boys told me about it, like, he had an injury at training, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think Christchurch boys might struggle this weekend. Albie got injured at training. I was posting shit like that, bro. And I was posting stuff like, nah, all the boys reckon this guy's mud. Like, I was really getting into it. And then I remember Sky Sport, like, we talked early days about me possibly, like, coming on and
At 15.
yeah, at 15, bro. At 15. So
that's exciting because I think about this a lot. Like, and I was like, it's evidence. Like, you know what I mean? You've done something that's new that hasn't been done, and there's a bit of validation from someone. And in New Zealand, Sky Sport's a big one. And I think about my nephew when I was back home. And all play basketball, and like obviously I'm fucking like 20 years older than the dude, and like touching him up. But like he
the way he just said that, eh? I was
But
fucking
then-
smoking the cunt. But
yeah, I got to teach him those lessons. But like he gives up, and
Yeah.
he's got no evidence of success. Because when I was a kid, like we won from under 5s to under 15s. I think we lost like 3-4 games. So in my mind, I knew subconsciously, if I worked hard, there's always going to be like an evidence. There's proof of success. And maybe that was something that shaped you up too. And it's even a conversation, bro. Like Sky Sports. I always think about that.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I learned early was I learned that my ideas have value. I
Yeah.
think I learned that because I think so many of us, we have great ideas, but we're like, oh, but nah, that's dumb, or like, nah, that won't work. I learned early, like, nah, they can work. They may not be perfect, but no, my ideas can connect to someone. So I learned that at 14. Started one 14, one at 15. Started my next one at 18, and then started West Park when I was 21. And in between all those ones,
Oh, so that's been around for a while.
yeah, bro, I started
Yeah.
7 years ago now. So, well, it's been the longest. It's been the longest journey. I told people because when I first kind of cracked it in New Zealand, it was 2020 was the first time like people really started to.
What was the video that done that? The sidestepping one?
Nah, bro, it was actually before that. I did this like FaceTime with Jacinda Ardern.
Oh, it was like a fake version.
Yeah,
right?
bro.
Yeah,
No, it was
okay.
the real one. I was talking to her.
she quit today?
Bro, she resigned today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you texted her?
I'll give her a FaceTime after.
Was that the first one? I remember that. Was that the first one?
That was like the first one that properly.
That felt cool?
You know what, bros? I've been doing it long enough that it was just a bigger version of what I'd already been doing.
Oh, okay.
Because I started doing social. I started my podcast 2017. Started doing social media content 2018, and then 2020 was when it first popped. But I started doing social media really 2014. So by the time people actually started to hear about me, I'd been already 8 years doing social media content.
Yeah.
And like, they were calling me an overnight sensation. And it was like that classic thing of it took me 8 years to
Yeah.
fucking crack it overnight.
Yeah. fucking hell.
Yeah, and now I'm fucking 27 now. It's gearing up to 15 years I've been
Yeah.
doing it. So that's why I know it like the back of my hand.
What do you do? Like, how would you describe what you do? You like sort of here, there. I was like, fuck, what's this kind up to?
Honestly, bro, I just fucking do whatever I feel like.
Yeah. Well, how do you monetize whatever you do? Whatever you feel
Oh, you mean like the company?
Yeah.
No, so we're literally just a content studio. So we make money through. We made like 5 TV shows last year, and so in either a mix of NZ on air funding, private funding.
So, like, say I want to create a show. You got to pitch the idea to it, film it. Do you bundle it up and sell it like that, or do you sell it before? Like, how does that fucking work?
the system in New Zealand's quite different. Like it's entirely like what?
No, just thinking of like New Zealand stuff. Like.
Oh man, we crack up, G. We crack up. So we take our like broadcasting and media model from the British. So theirs is all public funded. So the BBC is like the biggest. That's where everything runs out of in the UK. We're a little bit different. Like in New Zealand, it's all public funded, and so it's all funds that are siphoned through New Zealand on air, and that
Okay.
basically funds everything. And how that process works is you go to a network first,
Yep.
and you get approval from a network. They basically say like you pitch to them, and they basically say, "Yep, if you get funding, we'll platform the show."
Yeah.
And then you go with the network together to NZ on air to get the money.
So do you like, say you get, I'm just gonna make up numbers, say you get $1 million here, do you use, or like, is the goal to get profit out of that million? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Like, that's pretty much it.
So here's $1 million, we're gonna shoot it for 5, we clear 5, boom.
That's how everyone does it. But how we're doing it is very different, like with Westpark. So the public funding model is it's great, but it's inherently extremely flawed because
you have to answer to people.
I mean, that and the reporting aspect of it, like I think one of the tough things with the public funding model is that so much money has to go to the controlling of the money.
Yeah.
Because, it's government. You have to make sure you're reporting things right. You have to make sure, it's all being, oh no, he's all good.
Is that?
Yeah, he's all
okay,
good.
so.
You have to make sure it's being handled correctly. It's being pushed through the right channels.
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But for me, I'm like, I want that money to go to making the best content possible. And so, and then the other thing with the public funding model that's really difficult is that New Zealand is it's a small team. Like they're nationwide, arguably one of the most influential government agencies in the country. And bro, it's like maybe 20 people.
Is that it?
Yeah. And they're good people. I have great relationships with them. But I think with me, because I recognized the flaw in the system, bro, I'm in a position in New Zealand where I can I'm really lucky. I can do fucking, like, I'll just be honest. I can kind of do whatever.
And you'll get funded for it?
And because I have these great relationships, but my thing would be of like, if I do that, then I just kind of become part of the issue.
Yeah.
So what we're doing with Westpark is we're trying to be the first successful, independently driven, digitally led media and entertainment studio, not even in this part of the world, but like in the world. So what we do is we basically create digital first content and monetize it through independent commercial verticals. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Bouncers was the first one we did. So I went digital first with that, shot a web series of it. How I then made money was selling merchandise. So our first commercial verticals product. So we sold merchandise. And I did this t-shirt that's of one of the characters in Bouncers. And this is Auckland, this original web series, and sold 700 t-shirts in like 24 hours.
That's good.
That was like 40K or something.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. 40, 50K. Immediately the show's profitable. And then you add all these other commercial verticals, and these companies are already doing it. Like you look at Complex. I remember reading an article from like 2018.
We loosely do it, don't we? Yeah. Without the corporate structure behind it.
Of course. Like, you guys are very similar. Complex, I remember they did a case study on Hot Ones. And
$20 million of hot sauce sold in
$20 million of hot sauce. That was 70% of their revenue for that company. Like, it's not all in advertising. It's in IP, it's in product.
Yeah.
And so we're building
events is the other one. Complex Con would be a big.
That's another one.
It's funny you talk about this because me and Lukey have like studied like a lot, especially early on. Like we were just sort of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. And Complex was a big one for us. Who was the other one? Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report were huge in the sports space, but Barstool Sports was kind of like the one.
But Barstool Sports have a great model. Like, bro, I was walking through fucking LA and the frozen section. Dave Portnoy's got a fucking frozen pizza. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
From one bite reviews. Like, it's crazy. Like that's. And
I like the way that they think. Like it's like a change. Like it goes content into commerce. Always
content into commerce, and that's why inherently the system back home is flawed because it's commerce first.
Yeah, okay, I got
and it's like your content is never going to be good if that's what you're worried about first. So it was really important for us to create this to begin to create this avenue of content first, commercial second, because I'm in the position now where if we validate that idea and we show the industry that it works, that opens up a range of opportunity for people that fucking haven't even been able to touch public funding.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the experience. But if we come in and we're like this commercial outfit that has done this in a very clear, well-defined way with systems and like a very clear direction on how it can be achieved, bro, that opens up the door for fucking so much other shit, and that's what we're in the business.
Unintentionally, you kind of like same as us. Like I never thought of it that way, but you just different style of content, but the business structure is similar.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
and the thing about being independent is, and the thing I like about us being us is like you don't have to. Besides the law of the universe and the law of the government, who do you have to answer to? I've got no one above me.
Totally, and we absolutely follow the same model. Like we. For example, Boys Are Decorating. That's one.
Hey, congrats on that show. That's fucking sick. Yeah, Angus Cook on.
Yeah, bro. That's been a really successful example of what we're trying to achieve. And
did you pull the 8-ball comment from the micro?
Yeah, just out of nowhere, bro. Out of nowhere. 400 shirts in 1 minute, bro.
Yeah,
we're not a clothing company. We're a content company.
You don't need to be. That's the thing that people don't realize. Yeah, we'll figure that out in like podcasting and shit we've done. You don't really need to be, bro.
No, me and this guy were like, oh fuck, like 400's a lot. It was like 45 seconds, bro. They were gone.
Sick. I love that.
And that's not because we validate ourselves as a clothing company. We're content first, audience driven, and that's all you need to be in order to build commerce in this day and age. And that's 100%. What we're proving over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, bro, that's what we do, man.
You basically you're copying YKTR.
Nah, you know what's crack up is fucking we do it way better and like not even. Yeah. I mean, bro, we
could be the leaders in the space, right?
We absolutely are in the same, in the same realm. Like I think with you boys, you've found one specific avenue of commerce that you've been extremely successful in. Whereas I guess one thing that we're wanting to do is different IPs and very different, wide ranging. Like channels of commerce, all different kinds of things. It's not just merch; it's product across a broad range of things.
Yeah, we're similar. Yeah. Eventually, I think we just have to. We got to a point where had to cut the fat and come back in and focus on. Yeah, but
of course, and I know your brain. Like I know you'll be heading in that direction, and I guess that's I think where we'll hit the sweet spot in New Zealand and Australia, as where private industry and also public industry understand the power of that, and then they also get behind it. Because at the moment, it's inherently like an independent endeavor. It's guys like us that want to give it a crack that are making it happen. But as soon as like big commerce gets behind it, like fuck, you'll see $1 billion companies coming out of New Zealand and Australia.
You reckon?
Fuck yeah! If you think about Tesla, bro, most people don't know that was mostly publicly or like government funded, but we look at it as this like heralded private, like success story. Like, no, the government funded that shit.
Yeah.
Support from your government and support from the public industry, public infrastructure is really, really valuable. And if you can get them to value what you're creating, that's how you see genuine impact on like a systemic level. And so that's like I guess what we're chasing, bro. Who
you got so you've done Denon, you've done Bowie, KP. Who's the coolest out of them three? KP's pretty cool,
KP's a good dude. Like
based off what you know in content and production and execution, who will get the most views out of them three? Would it be Bowie?
From what I know, nah. We talked about this. Like Kempy. He's got an amazing audience, and like one of the things with Kempy is his audience is active. Like they're with him, they'll fucking follow him anywhere. They're loyal to him, and like he's one of the only dudes. You have to be a very specific person to be able to build an audience like that are so like for you in the way that his is. And the dude's a fucking genius that he's been able to achieve that. And so when I say value of audience and what they bring, Kempy's. I will never say outright that I know whose will get the most views, but I think when it comes to like connection, engagement, like the people that are getting amongst it, like, the value of his audience it's fucking plain and simple right there, broad as daylight.
He's been a crazy story. So like even like I played with him at the Warriors. And he helped me set up my first podcast here. Like he was plugging in all the chords and stuff like that. Showed me around. I remember him going, he goes, bro, like podcasting, like it's just a lead way into better things. It wasn't like the thing that you monetized at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, bro, if you can get like 5 to 10,000 listens a month, you've got a really good podcast. Yeah. And I remember like, I think my first couple months, like smash, I was like, fuck, I'm onto something here. And I was cool. And he's always been very like, thing I love about successful people like that, they're open, bro. They like lay it out for you.
Yeah.
Because they know how much hard work it takes to actually get there.
Kempy's hiding nothing. Like, I think
nothing,
people,
bro.
I think people
nothing.
Really, I think people probably really may never understand like how like fucking talented this dude is with what he's able to do, with what he's, you know, I think unless you get to see it firsthand.
Bro, one of the crazy things about him, if you don't know him, like, fuck, he'd be off air, bro, and he'd be on his phone like flat. And this is the early days, bro, and he looks looks dead, bro. Then you just go 3, 2, 1, boom, and it just goes switch. And he just like does the Kempy thing, and he does it really well. It's crazy to watch.
Kempy is another one of like, you think of 4 extremely difficult industries to be successful. Clothing, you know, merchandise, alcohol, media, sport.
Yeah, true.
Kant's conquered all 4 of them. That's somebody who you need to sit down and fucking figure out exactly what the fuck makes them tick. Where, you know, what their thoughts are on things. Like, he's a dude that he'll say some shit and you'll be like, oh fuck, that's a bit different to what I was thinking. But that's why that dude's where he's at.
And time as well, bro. Like he's like the OG podcaster.
He's been grinding.
Yeah, and like he's not fancy, bro. Like worst times where I've got caught up. Doing well, fucking sitting in clubs, buying bottles.
Yeah.
Me and Lukey. Just sitting around and just fucking your work, go shoot down the hill. So he's not like that, bro. Nah. He's just, bro, he's on, doesn't buy flash cars or he's got money to do that shit and it just doesn't make him happy.
Oh, he still lives in the same place. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he'll mind me saying like he lives so simply, but it's because he's
don't get me wrong, he's stressed.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess to bring it back to our very first start of this conversation, like that dude is so purpose driven to a point that it would like make you sick. And that's not to say that the other boys like fucking Bowie and KP are exactly the same in their own realm, but you know, Kempy is somebody that he's built his entire existence around like that purpose. And look at how many people fuck with it and like fuck with it deeply. So yeah, man.
And like the way he's like, I get joy out of seeing someone like Scope kill it like now. But he's been able to do that for say Hello Sports, who they're around forever, bro.
Look at those boys, bro.
Those
they're
dudes
fucking murdering.
They're always talented, man. And he always said to me, he goes, fuck, if they'd played football, that'd be huge. They'd be bigger than all of us by now. And he put them on, they blew up. You know what I mean? Like he's that dude, bro. I like that.
And that's the sign of that's all the sign you need is like who comes in, how do they come out? And looking at what those boys are doing, like they're fucking killing it. That dude, you know, put them on the platform.
Fucking oath.
Yeah, man. I love all of those boys, and everyone that we've had on the show has been fucking cool. I have loved every single person that we've had on, and it's cool to call them like genuinely good friends of mine, and yeah, man, it's just surreal. Like these are guys that I grew up like idolizing. You know, Bowie, bro. Like, me and this guy sitting there with Bowie today, bro. We literally said to him, he goes to me, he was like, bro, if you could have dinner with anyone, like who would you say? And I was like, bro, no shit. Most of my life, I would have said you.
Legit?
Except right now. Bo knows back in the day, fuck, that was the bit, like, we were all coming back to school, bro, quoting that thing word for word.
Yeah.
But those times are not missed on me with how influential that dude was. So, yeah, bro, it's just been crazy, man. I'm very blessed to like be where I am and be doing what I'm doing, and I guess that's why I try to show a greater appreciation and a genuine care for things bigger than me, issues bigger than me, because it's like
we can't just keep taking, bro.
Man.
That ain't the Islander way, is it?
Nah, bro. Nah. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at these days.
What's next? Double down.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Scale, grow.
Yeah, bro. Me and this guy Marty B, we're gonna really take over You're gonna see us do some pretty fucking crazy things this year, bro. Like I think the last like year or two has been, validating our ideas and
You got that validation now. You're like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, it's enough that anybody can kind of look at it that doesn't understand it. Like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So the next stage is just kind of taking it to the world, bro. So.
Last question. You're on death row. You got 2 meals in front of you. One's a Fijian one and one's a Māori one. Which one are you picking?
Holy fuck. What's the Māori one? Nah.
Man.
Shit, I'm fucked. I'm fucked either way. You know what I'm doing? I'm dying hungry.
You're back on those bread rolls.
Yeah, man, I'm back on the garlic pesto bread rolls from Countdown.
Yeah. All right, my guy. Thanks for jumping on.
Appreciate you, brother.
Right, appreciate you. Fuck, this was cool, bro. This is cool.
Yeah,
Wish you around a bit more so we could chop it up a bit more. So when you back in town?
Bro, we'll be back and forth quite a bit, bro. So,
yeah.
You'll see a fair bit of us. So.
Yeah. Well, welcome around anytime.
My God. Shut up, bro.